It is Thursday, and that means we are back in nutrition educator Lynn Matava's kitchen. If we're looking for the perfect October dinner party dish, then Lynn has the recipe for you. Let's check it out.
I'm going to show you a fun and delicious way to get your vegetables in this fall. We're going to make one of my favorite recipes, which is a pumpkin bisque. We're actually going to be using canned pumpkin today as a time saver, and it comes out really delicious this way. So what we do, and I've already started it here, is put a couple onions chopped up and a couple pieces of celery into our pot. And to that, we are going to add some fennel. And fennel is it's a lot like celery. It has a kind of anise or licoricey flavor, but if you don't like licorice, don't fret. You're not going to taste that in the soup. It's just gonna add a little bit of sweetness to it, and a nice kind of rich flavor and some more nutrients and fiber. Doing this in some uniform pieces. It doesn't really matter how pretty they are because again they're all going to get pureed. And then I've got 2 carrots here. I should have peeled these ahead of time, but I neglected to. But normally these would be peeled. I'm just going to cut some of the skin off that's a little bit on the darker side. Again, we're just going to kind of cut these into uniform pieces to cook them and make them soft. They don't have to be exceptionally pretty. Now I'm doing this over the stove today, so I started it, stopped it, and brought it over to show you. You could throw all of these ingredients I'm showing you into a crock pot and just let them simmer for about 8 hours, and that'll make the same results, but you don't have to stand around and watch it all day. So they're going into the pot. And once they simmer and cook down a little bit and start to caramelize, at that point I would add in some garlic. This is a microplaner, and I just grate it right into my dish. And then I've also got here somewhere under my mess a piece of ginger. And again, you could use, for garlic and the ginger, you could use the powdered stuff and just throw in, maybe a teaspoon of each in there. Because it's really about, what you have time for. This is going to taste a little better fresh, but if you're going to make homemade soup and get your veggies, by all means, use the powdered stuff. And then this is the coolest trick that I have to show you of summer tomatoes. So when you have those tomatoes and they are just, they're ripe, they're ready to eat, and you don't need another tomato because you've got so many of them because they all became ripe at once. What I do is I put them in the freezer in a container or a bag, and then when they come out of the freezer, these have been out for about 10 minutes, I can take the tops off and then the skins will just peel right off. So it's just one way to get that skin off, and I will use these in soup all fall and winter long. And then these, because they're still semi-frozen, we'll chop pretty effortlessly. They're going to go into our pot. And then all of these ingredients will continue to cook down. After they start cooking down and the onions start to look a little brown, the tomatoes start melting, we're gonna add 4 cups of chicken broth or vegetable broth, or you could just add water if that's what you wanted to add. And then to that, we're gonna add an entire 29-ounce can of canned pumpkin. Now, you make sure you don't get the kind that says pumpkin pie filling. That'll be very sweet. This is just plain old pumpkin. So once we get the chicken broth in, we got about 15 minutes of cooking time. And then the easiest way to finish this off is to just let it cool down, and just enough that we can put it in the blender, and we're going to blend it all together and make it very pretty. Once this has all been blended and nice and smooth in our blender, we can put it back on the stove and heat it back up just until it's warm. I like to add a little bit of nutmeg in mine, and you can just use the already powdered stuff, but I just happen to have a little piece of nutmeg here. So I add all that together, and then what we get At the very end is this delicious little orange bowl. And we actually get a full pot of it, but it's a really delicious creamy way to get your vegetables in. So I hope I've inspired you to go out and try some pumpkin, and I'd love to hear what you think.
Now, as a reminder, we do have all of Lynn's tips and tricks on our website. To find them, just log on to 47abc.com and click on the Good Morning Delmarva page.